Live from South Carolina Public Radio, welcome to Walter Edgar's Journal, the 25th anniversary special. I'm your host, Sean Birch. Thank you for joining us for this celebration of the past quarter century of interviews, lively conversations, and of course, all things Southern on Walter Edgar's Journal. Over the years, the show has featured authors, historians, newsmakers, and so many other Southerners from all different walks of life. And it continues to spotlight stories, insights, and perspectives that bring us even closer to this region that we call home. This hour, we are discussing the magic of Walter Edgar's Journal, looking back on some of our favorite interviews, and taking a peek behind the scenes of the show. And joining me in the studio is historian and educator and host and the man who literally wrote the book on South Carolina, Dr. Walter Edgar. Walter, it's good to see you.
Sean, thank you, and I appreciate your putting this together. The biggest surprise that I had was seeing the Scene magazine come out.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know anything about that, and some of our neighbors got their Scene before we did.
And they were asking you about it.
Oh, that was a great photograph. And my wife would say, "What photograph? We haven't." It took 2 days to catch up, but no, that was much appreciated. Particularly some of the background photographs. There was one with Mary Alice Monroe that Alfred helped me identify from the shows over the years.
It really was wonderful to take that look back visually, and it's going to be great talking about the show this hour. And you mentioned Alfred. We do have Alfred Turner here in the studio with us, longtime producer of Walter Edgar's Journal, and now a co-host of the podcast version. How are you, Alfred?
I'm glad to be here. Glad to be here. It's going to be fun. Yeah.
It is going to be a great conversation, and we do want to hear from you this hour. What are your favorite moments from the past 25 years of Walter Edgar's Journal? Do you have any questions that you've always wanted to ask Walter and Alfred? Send us an email to wej@scpublicradio.org. That's wej@scpublicradio.org. Or you can leave a comment on the live streaming video of this program. It's happening right now at YouTube and Facebook. Just search for South Carolina ETV on either of those platforms. And we hope to get to your questions later in the hour. I do want to start with Walter and Alfred, of course, the people of the hour.
Well, what I want to say is,
yeah, go ahead,
having
Walter.
a call-in, because the show originally was a call-in
Yes.
show.
Back in the day.
Back in the first ones, it was the 3 o'clock afternoon show, which was on Friday, which was not the easiest time to get guests.
Right.
But we tried to call in, I think, for about 6 weeks, and then we dropped that.
And I've heard a story that maybe the first show or one of the first shows, the 3 o'clock hour that you were broadcasting in, you preempted some classical music that would have been there, and apparently there was someone who was not very happy about that.
Yes, there was someone who they did have the buzzer.
Yes, to
someone
bleep it.
was saying some not very nice words about the journal interrupting. I don't know, the Moonlight Sonata or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Why did you take my show off and put this on?
exactly.
Okay.
But it was worth it because it was the journal, and hopefully they realized that down the
Well,
line.
and then we moved to the noon hour, and able to get guests. People in those days, the guests came into the studio.
It's very different.
Now most everything is on the line. Alfred hooks it up somehow magically, and we can do it. But it was great having the guests in the room because you could read. People say, well, how did you handle that conversation? We have a conversation. We've always had conversations on the journal, not an interview. We've had a conversation. But I can see how somebody is reacting either positively or negatively and pull that into the conversation.
Right. You have to be able to read someone's body language to really understand how your questions are affecting them.
Well, they need to see how my eyes can go big like.
I'm not sure we should say that.
He really say that?
That happens every once in a while on the show.
And I guess that's one of the things, doing the show and a lot of public speaking over the years, when I'm in an audience and things aren't going well, I want to look up in the speaker and say, read your audience. cut, time to move on. And that applies to sermons too.
Definitely. So thinking about 25 years of Walter Edgar's Journal, how does it feel to be celebrating, like I said, a quarter century of the show?
Old.
You don't look at old at all. You
no.
don't look over 25 yourself.
No. Thank you. Being a historian, when you start saying things like, a quarter of a century, for historians, we measured historic generations as 25 years.
Sure.
So it's been a generation of the show. That makes me a grandfather, Alfred too, since you were there for a good part of it.
Yep.
And when it started out, we really didn't know what was going to come about. I mean, it was Tom Fowler. We started.
Right.
He was, for a while, it was the two of us, and then he dropped out after about a couple of months.
Yep.
His decision, and I went solo, and I had no experience in broadcasting. I learned that radio is a whole lot more forgiving than TV, and I don't know.
It helps when people can't see you.
It was fun. I guess in fact we had a guest yesterday that Alfred and I were talking about, and she mentioned, did you look at this? And I said, I read your book. I read both your books. I don't have a guest on the show before I do my homework. I mean, having been on the other end, when history came out, I could be on somebody's television talk show. They didn't know whether they'd written a cookbook, a travel book, or whatever. It was to fill 15 minutes of time.
Right.
Of course, the press was loving for me to get out there and talk, but, if somebody's taken the time to come into my show, I'm going to welcome and be able to talk to them.
You're going to do your due diligence to make sure it's worth their time as well.
Yeah.
I can totally understand that. And you mentioned Tom Fowler, a former, I believe, director of what is now South Carolina Public Radio.
Yeah.
And the show was kind of born out of special coverage that you all did in 2000 for the raising of the Hunley, the Confederate submarine down.
Actually, it started before that.
It did?
It was for taking the Confederate flag off the dome of the State House. And Tom said, we need somebody to do the color, the history. And
provide some commentary and analysis.
Yeah, and we did that. We did the Hunley. And then he said, we ought to do a show. And we did, and it just kind of morphed into the way it was until we went to podcast.
Right. And early days of the show, it was a different format, as you mentioned. You were doing it live. You were taking calls. I understand that for a while it was more of a sort of a magazine type of show where you would have different segments.
Different segments. And then once it became a solo show, and Tom was still head of public radio then, I said, I'd really like to do things in depth.
Take a full hour to discuss something.
Take a full hour. And there was another show that they used to have that was short segments, and a book would come in and Tom would say, I said, give it to your day. That means it's going to be a 10 or 15 minute segment. Now see, that's one of the differences now with podcasts when we are going for 35 minutes instead of 55 minutes. We can get topics that we would normally have not covered on the journal. And also now, people's attention span is a whole lot less than what it used to be.
That is very true. We're
that,
seeing that. And I do want to say that you are tuned into Walter Edgar's Journal, the 25th anniversary special. We are live this afternoon. I'm Sean Birch here with Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner. And we are taking your questions this hour. You can email them to wej@scpublicradio.org, or if you're watching this streaming video on ETV, the ETV YouTube and Facebook pages, you can leave a comment there. Just search for South Carolina ETV to watch us have this conversation. And I want to play a little video that we have from someone very special. We put out a call for folks to send their thoughts and their well wishes to you all. And we heard from Dr. Bobby Donaldson, a history professor at the University of South Carolina. We're going to see that video right now.
Hello, I'm Dr. Bobby Donaldson, professor of history and director of the Center for Civil Rights History and Research at the University of South Carolina. And I'm extremely proud to call Dr. Walter Edgar a friend, a colleague, and a mentor. Indeed, one of the great attractions of coming to USC was the opportunity to work with Dr. Edgar, who served as the director of the Institute for Southern Studies. For 25 years, Walter Edgar's journal has been a gift to South Carolina and a gift to listeners around the world. Walter, congratulations on this remarkable milestone.
So that is noted historian Dr. Bobby Donaldson from the University of South Carolina. He has been a guest on the show many times.
Oh, yeah.
For Walter and Alfred, how does it feel hearing that the journal and you, Walter, personally have made such an impact on people?
It's kind of humbling, actually.
Yeah?
You know?
How so?
Well, I guess I've always kind of been low-key. I don't sign my name Walter Edgar, PhD. I think that's pompous. I know friends who do that. And it got to be a joke with Bob Ellis, who was my administrative assistant for so many years, and before him, Tibby Dozier. When they had to get in contact for somebody, then they would say, Dr. Walter Edgar, that's the only time it was,
That's when the doctor would come in.
That's when the doctor would come in.
Or when he wanted dinner reservations.
Right.
Yeah. But for Bobby to say that as a colleague, I guess my whole life I have been a teacher, not a professor, a teacher. Whether I'm in the classroom, whether I'm on the radio, whether I'm giving a talk to fourth or fifth graders, and that's one thing I used to do. I'd go into the classrooms. For fifth grade, they teach South Carolina history. Right. Sometimes younger, and just sit on the floor with those kids and let them ask questions about South Carolina. I get a charge out of doing it. It's fun, and history should be fun. I can't tell you, growing up, I had some history teachers who were not fun. I'm sure everybody has.
Right. Well, we will continue the fun after our first break here. We are going to take a couple minutes here. Please stay with us for the Walter Edgar's Journal 25th Anniversary Special. I'm Sean Birch here with Walter and Alfred. And welcome back to the live Walter Edgar's Journal 25th Anniversary Special. We are coming to you from the Mediascape studio at South Carolina ETV and Public Radio. I'm your host, Sean Birch. Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner are here with me in the studio, and we would love if you joined our conversation. You can email your questions to wej@scpublicradio.org. Or if you are watching this program on the South Carolina ETV Facebook or YouTube page, go ahead and leave a comment there. And we have been talking about the beginnings of Walter Edgar's Journal 25 years ago, and we want to highlight Alfred Turner here, longtime producer of the show. Tell us about your journey to joining the Walter Edgar's Journal family, because you became the producer in 2006.
2006, so 19 years ago. But
Wow.
before that, yeah, it seems odd to say that.
Really? It doesn't feel like that
19
much time
years-
has passed?
It does and it doesn't. It does when I look back on all the number of guests we've had and the changes that have taken place. Then I can sort of see the progression over time. But if it just occurs to me, 2006, well, that was just a couple of years back.
Right.
No, it was a long time ago, particularly in terms of broadcasting. So how did I start? Well, I worked for South Carolina Public Radio for 37 plus years before I retired. And I'm now a part-time employee
Right.
producing this program. Because when I retired, I said, you need to keep this thing going. Why don't you do it as a podcast? And we all talked about that and came up with
Right.
the idea that we'll do it this many times a month, and how will we approach it? The three of us talked about that, came up with the ideas about let's do it this way, and that's the way it's been since 2023. But anyway, 2006, it was the case that we had a producer. I counted the number of producers you had
A
in
lot.
the first 6 years, and I think there were 4 or 5.
Well, initially, I'm not sure we even had a producer because,
Oh, you did. You did. You wouldn't be on the air if you didn't have one.
well, no, but there was somebody. You do the contact for the guest. I had to contact the guests.
All right.
And
Oh,
thank
okay.
God
You
Well,
were kind
helped
of
with
producing
that.
yourself. Yeah.
You were helping with that, yeah.
Yeah. The last producer before you was Jane
Jane Hess,
Hess.
fantastic at what she did.
She was the longest of the producers.
And should have been, too, yeah.
Yeah, but the first couple were kind of. They had other jobs at the.
Well, and one of them, I think, was going to university working on a master's degree, and so was dividing her time between working with you on the journal and doing that. So 2006, it was
Reynolds.
Catherine Reynolds.
Catherine Reynolds,
Yeah.
who is now in broadcasting.
Very cool.
Wonderful.
So 2006, I came along and they said, you need to put this program on the air. It's once a month, once a week. It is live, not live, but taped. So it's yours. Take it. And I'll tell you the truth, I had produced programming before, but they were mostly music oriented.
Right.
So I had a lot to learn. As a matter of fact, Walter can attest to the fact that it was a rather steep learning curve the first month or two, but we got there. And it turned out that the biggest change for me was this was the first time I had to do a program on a weekly basis where I had to record it and edit it. Now, when we record a program, in those days, we were recording and trying to fill 52 minutes for each hour that we were on the air, because we had time for news, we
Right.
had time for introductions. So 52 minutes.
And that's very precise. When
Very
we're talking
precise.
about broadcasting, it has to be 52 minutes.
And so there was that challenge, and I was using then some fairly new software to edit the program. In the early days, if it was edited at all, it was edited with a razor blade. They were actually physically editing audio tape.
Wow.
If you've ever had a cassette in days gone by and you had all the tape come out one time while you
Right.
were listening to your favorite tape, it suddenly went and you pulled it out. And, well, that stuff we had to cut and edit by taking pieces out of audio tape, putting them back together. So the challenge for
Wow.
me was just to learn how to do that effectively digitally. And of course, it made things a lot more. We could do a lot more. But it was a challenge at first because, quite frankly, I got down into the weeds as to how to make it finessed,
Right.
and how to do it.
Taking the time to really make it perfect.
Yeah, and then I said, finally realized, dude, you're on a deadline here, okay?
That's another real something that you have to keep in mind.
You got to
for
make it
broadcast.
flow, but you got to make it real, and you got to get it there on time.
You do have a deadline.
Yeah,
And with the other program we did together, the A's to Z's,
right.
First of all, Alfred has now firmly 145 words.
We got that down to a science.
We got that down
Yep.
to a science, and it's been a long time. He has never been shy about redo that,
Right.
speak again, and
Right.
with guests as well. I think initially he didn't do that as much, but when an interview is over or a conversation is over now, he and I will kind of put our heads together, and I'd say, "You got a lot of ers and ahs because
Sure.
with the guests," and he knows how to do that. It makes it smooth.
Well, and you edit for things. If somebody has a verbal tick,
Right.
that they in conversation you would never notice, but listening on the radio you might.
It
So
becomes very apparent. When
very
you're hearing
apparent
it.
after you're listening for an hour or so. Might be that. There also might be just someone does an aside, which was interesting in the context of the conversation at the time, but when you're listening to the whole show, it doesn't flow. So I edit for flow and time when we were on the air. Now I do edit for flow and time to an extent, but I have much more leeway because it's a podcast. I don't have to fit a particular time post.
And you did mention that that was something we started talking about, if I remember correctly, in 2019.
Yeah.
We started discussing the transition from a weekly broadcast show to a podcast. I think at that point we were giving ourselves a little bit of time to figure that out, but then of course the pandemic happened, and that changed a lot. And Walter, you mentioned earlier in the show, it used to be that you would be in studio with your guest like this. The pandemic changed that completely, where we would have to do remote interviews.
Yeah, and during the pandemic, some of them we did Zoom
Yeah.
or something,
A similar platform like that.
a similar type format. But since then, we have a few guests in the studio, but everything is done electronically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
digitally. And the podcast has been going since 2023.
Yeah.
And it is, we made the changes for several reasons, your retirement, impending retirement at the time. And as we mentioned, when you are on broadcast radio, you live and die by the amount of time that you have, the clock, and you have to make it perfect for that amount of time. With a podcast, we have more creativity, we have more freedom.
If you look at your producer and he's doing this, he's saying, stretch it, take more time, make it longer. So
Right.
But Alfred, most of the time you're doing
It's
this.
the wind-up
would
side.
you
yeah.
please
Walter,
finish?
you're talking too long, because there's some guests, just like yesterday we had Victoria Benton Frank, Dorothy Frank's daughter. She is now a novelist in her own right, and I think we could have talked until today.
Easily.
Probably.
But he's, it's time to wind up. And anybody who's been on the show before, I'll say, Alfred's doing the wind up. And one of them, they'll say,
They'll all do it.
Yeah, his little helicopter, yes, Alfred's doing that. It's time to go, any last words.
Right.
So,
And I do want to remind our audience that you are tuned into the live 25th anniversary special for Walter Edgar's Journal. I'm Sean Birch, your host for this hour here with Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner, and we are taking your questions. And we have a question from Bonnie from Charleston. Bonnie says, Walter, you are always so smooth on air. Out of the hundreds of interviews that you've done, which was the most challenging to prepare for, and which one was the most difficult to actually get through? And of course, we won't speak ill of any of the guests, but maybe a subject matter that was hard to get through.
there was one guest that the program did not air. I actually went to sleep it was so boring.
You fell asleep during the interview?
Yeah, I was not producer then.
Okay, you would have woken him up.
We,
Yeah,
we,
I would
we, we
kick
were
him
in the old studios, and so there was something solid between the producer and
Right.
and me, and
Otherwise, she probably would have kicked you.
she was trying. She was trying. So anyway, we'll not mention the name of that guest. We didn't.
But you fell asleep during that
I
interview,
fell
so
asleep.
that was tough to get
That's
through.
a good sign.
The guest never knew. He just kept rambling on and on. But
But preparing for, as you said, you do a lot of preparation. You read the books. You do research. Has there been a subject that has just been so hard to get your hands around?
well, I was going to answer the question from our.
Oh yeah.
I think interviewing the Conroy family
Right.
when we had Pat and his siblings. I read all his books. I knew there were family situations, and we had them all in the room in a semicircle. As we discussed, they're growing up with the man who became the great Santini, and it was a very emotional interview, conversation. And then Alfred, I think the preparing, I guess, for the Mother Emanuel story.
Yeah, yeah.
Covering the aftermath of the shooting.
aftermath of that.
Well, and you actually, with Beryl Dacres, went on live, both on television and radio, for the funeral. You were the coverage for our radio people, and so people watching it on television could see what was happening,
Right.
could see who was speaking. But Beryl and Walter told the radio listeners what was going on at the funeral.
I have to imagine that was an emotionally charged time to be there. What was that like doing that broadcast?
Well, wow. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, the whole city of Charleston, I mean, it looked like the world turned out. There was the funeral service was on the College of Charleston campus, so I think 5,000 or 6,000 people. President Obama came. Governor Haley was in the front row. It basically was a state funeral. And as Alfred said, a lot of it was visual, and so Beryl and I had to explain that to our radio audience.
Right.
At that point, very important people broke down into tears, and we would say, okay, Senator so-and-so is, I mean, the emotion in the ceremony.
Right.
We had to convey that, and at the same time, for the both of us, it was an emotional situation as well.
I would have to imagine it would be. I want to play a clip from an episode. You were just mentioning Pat Conroy, author of The Great Santini, The Prince of Tides, many other novels, which he later disclosed were semi-autobiographical, if not just fully autobiographical, and that many of the characters were based on his family members. You all gathered Pat Conroy and his siblings for a conversation in 2014 to discuss how these works reflected their lives, especially their relationship with an abusive father who was the model for the great Santini. I do want to give a warning that some may find this clip a little upsetting when talking about domestic abuse from the father, but let's listen to this clip.
Mike, we've been talking really about the great Santini, and I've heard your sister and your brother's reactions to the book. How old were you when the book came out?
I was about 26.
Okay.
It's all lies. Dad and Mom were wonderful people. I don't know where Pat came up with this. No, we support Pat very much.
All right, I was going to say, because that, what you had just said was the minority, would have been a minority interpretation, because I tossed out what a lot of people said about the Great Santini, the book, and that was, it was all an exaggeration. Nobody could have lived in a world like that.
No, it was pretty accurate. But we thought all families were like that. We thought all families moved every year, or twice a year. So we had no other family to compare it with.
I didn't know that everybody wasn't going home after school getting beaten up. I just thought, that's what a kid did. You finished school, said goodbye to everybody on the bus.
I mean, is this nothing, I mean, surely you had childhood chums y'all didn't talk about. Well,
There were other military kids for the most part.
And also
we moved every year.
Our childhood chums where we moved to a new city. It takes a while to develop friends.
You can't get a chum right away. Kathy was, one of the few I knew of all the kids that, could make a friend. She'd always make one friend. Mike and Jim had such bad personalities, they never made a friend during the entire school year. It took me a long time to make friends, and then we consistently moved every 9 months. So, I didn't spend the night with somebody until I was a junior in high school. I never would have anybody spend the night with me because I didn't want them being thrown through a plate glass window by Dad.
And the Conroy family joking there, but obviously touching on a very horrific subject of domestic abuse. That was not only an interview with Pat Conroy, a well-known author, but if I understand it correctly, one of the few times that all of the Conroy siblings were together.
well, there was one sister who
Carol.
Could not make it.
could not make it.
Yeah.
So what went into bringing that episode together?
Well, Pat was clearly a celebrated author. The State Humanities Committee had put together a program, and we did it at the Township Auditorium. I had a public conversation with Pat Conroy.
Yeah, the night before.
The night before, and I had just put out the feeler about what about getting everybody together, and they talked it out and decided yes, they would be willing to do that.
Wow.
And wasn't this not too long after his book, The Death of Santini, came out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Because his dad had passed. And
And
so
they
there
were
was a
able to
lot
talk
of
about
lot of reckoning with that legacy.
Right.
Now that he's gone, and the whole process of dealing with here's somebody, well, I won't go too deep into it, but you can imagine what they had to deal with emotionally.
Well,
Right.
the question I threw out, hey, folks, people say, well, the Great Santini was exaggerated, and you heard all 4 or 5 of them say, no, that was actually
That was the actual case.
that was the case.
That sounds like it was also an emotional interview to go through. I want to talk a little bit more about this in just a moment, but we are coming up on our second break. So we'll go to a break now. We have Walter, Edgar, and Alfred Turner. They'll stick around for more conversation. I'm Sean Birch. This is the live Walter Edgar's Journal 25th Anniversary Special. We'll be right back in just a moment. And welcome back to Walter Edgar's Journal, the 25th anniversary special, live from the Mediascape studio here at South Carolina Public Radio and ETV. I'm Sean Birch. I am honored to be chatting with Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner, longtime Journal producer, this hour. And we do want you to join our conversation. You can send your questions to wej@scpublicradio.org, or if you are watching the live stream of this program on YouTube and Facebook, leave a comment there. Just search for South Carolina ETV to be able to see those videos and those comments. We do have some questions coming in, and we have one from Ray, who asks, Walter, your opinion on the new Ken Burns American Revolution series.
I think the series is interesting. For the first time, the war in the South gets at least a nod. I think they could have added a little bit more on the war in the South, because after all, folks, the revolution really was won here in South Carolina.
Yep.
I think one thing that was interesting that has disturbed people was the violence of the American Revolution, and that was not overstated. The American Revolution, it wasn't these cute little people walking around in red uniforms and blue uniforms and picket fence.
And lining up in lines. And
well, they did some of that.
Yeah.
But particularly here in the Carolinas, it was really America's first Civil War. I mean, it was bloody, it was cruel.
And there were atrocities.
Oh, yes.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah.
But in South Carolina, it began with Tarleton at the Waxhaws and his massacre of the American soldiers trying to surrender.
Now, Tarleton was with the British.
With the British.
That's Alfred doing a good job as a producer.
See, that's what he does now on the show. He's the peanut gallery. Like,
Gotta respond.
Right, okay, Walter, you and the other historians, y'all are talking about this. Us folks don't know what that is.
Who is Bannister Tarleton, and why should I care?
We like to say that Alfred is being the audience surrogate, asking the questions that we wish we could.
Yeah, but the word of that spread throughout the backcountry, where 2/3 of the white population in South Carolina lived, by the way, most of them yeoman farmers. And every time the word was passed, the story got bigger. And Lord Cornwallis complained about the lies that these Americans are telling about us. Well, guess what? They weren't too exaggerated.
Right.
Weren't too exaggerated.
So, as someone who has covered this this period of time for a very long time, we are seeing with this Ken Burns documentary and with discussions on the Journal, sometimes the South's role in the American Revolution is undertold. How do you feel about new major documentaries like this, kind of bringing that story out?
Well, South Carolina is still living with its past.
It is.
In national histories written before 1860, South Carolina was a major player. But then the events of 1860 changed the rest of the nation's interpretation and conception of South Carolina, and kind of got pushed to the side. How could anything good have come out of South Carolina or happened down south?
Why do you think that is?
It's because of the American Civil War.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Frankly,
the interpretations began to change.
Interpretations began to change.
And
quite literally, some references to what happened in South Carolina was left out of
taken out
of books when they came out. And even in the into the 20th century, historians in textbooks that I reviewed would denigrate the partisan war that happened here. They weren't a true militia. They just didn't really do anything. No, except that they whooped Cornwallis, and that's how he ended up Yorktown losing the revolution. I think could have had a little bit more on the Burns series on the war in the South, particularly something like the occupation of Charleston. South Carolina was the only colony that was actually occupied with the military government, which made a big difference on how things happened, and that really is not covered in the series, because Charleston, was an occupied city, and particularly the role that women played in resistance doesn't get its due there.
It sounds like something that we can cover on the journal and educate people that way. I feel like I'm getting my a personal history lesson right here from Dr. Edgar.
My soapbox is right down here.
There you go.
I mean, what is interesting is that the Revolution in the South is now being covered. I mean, I've been singing this for 25 years, and now there are histories coming out. Oh, they rediscovered or just discovered that there was a war in the South. Hey, no, it started at Lexington Concord, then we had Bunker Hill, then we had Saratoga, then we had Yorktown. Whoop, the Revolution's over.
You'll find this funny. I had tea in my adopted hometown, a tea shop in Winsboro, South Carolina, called Cornwallis Tea Room. I thought that was interesting. I thought, are they commemorating the fact that he stayed here, just a block or two of where I'm drinking tea, overwintered here, or are they commemorating the fact that we kicked his and sent him on north?
I think that was to get some British glamour. No, he spent a very miserable winter in Winsboro.
Yep.
In fact, after Cowpens, and he was moving his army north to the Dan and coming back to Guilford Courthouse, one of his correspondents said, "Are you going back to South Carolina?" He said, "No, I've had enough adventures down there." So he decided to move on up to Virginia.
Now, talking about history and who controls the narrative sometimes, we've received a couple of questions about this, and we're going to paraphrase this here. We are in a time when people are questioning what is taught in history courses. We won't get into the politics of all of this, but there are those who are not interested in interfacing with certain parts of the past because it makes them uncomfortable. What are your thoughts on that, both of you?
Well, first of all, why should you be uncomfortable with dealing with your family's history?
It's a personal history.
It's a personal history. And as our governor and I have discussed in public, South Carolina has a very complicated history.
Yep.
And nobody's trying to shame anybody. We're just putting the story out there. And if for some reason, I don't want to find out about this, well, why not? I'm sorry. Nobody's trying to highlight the bad points. We're just putting out our state's history and our nation's history, which, like family relations, there's some good stories, some bad stories. It's all part of a whole.
Yeah.
But it still boils down to you're in a family.
Yeah.
And whatever your history is and however complicated it is, you may have a very complicated relationship with your family. But if you are truly family, then you have to be able to look back on the good and the bad and reconcile and move forward and just say, I can't ignore Uncle Jim,
Right.
But so let's talk about what happened with Uncle Jim and why it might have happened, and let's go forward. I think forward is the way you have to keep looking.
While you're looking back, you have to look forward, and you have to be able to talk about everything, warts and all.
We are all shaped by the past.
Yeah.
And to ignore that makes it kind of difficult to move forward. If you don't know from whence you came, how can you move forward?
How can you make any decisions for your life or for your country or anything moving forward without understanding what has come before?
Yeah.
I want to hear another clip. By the way, you are tuned into the live 25th anniversary special for Walter Edgar's Journal. I'm Sean Birch here with Walter and Alfred Turner. And Walter, this was one of your favorite interviews that you listed on a list of clips that we were looking at. It's with T. Moffett Burris, who served in the South Carolina State House of Representatives for a long time.
He was a businessman here in Columbia.
He was a businessman.
A World War II veteran.
Served in World War II, and this is a a very early clip. This is from 2003, so early on in the 25 years. And he discussed his time in World War II in his memoir, Strike and Hold. And here is Walter speaking with T. Moffett Burris. And again, we should note that some may find the content in this clip a little upsetting. Let's hear it.
Mr. Burris, there is a story that you have about the liberation of that camp and involving one of your soldiers that's really pretty gripping. Would you mind sharing that with us, please?
I had a man in my company that joined during the Battle of the Bulge. He was an Austrian Jew, and back when the Germans first invaded Austria, they took his entire family, his mother, father, brother, and sister, to a concentration camp and beat this young man, left him for dead, but he recovered, escaped from Austria, got to the United States, joined the Army, joined the paratroopers, then was sent overseas and was assigned to my unit just about the time of the Battle of the Bulge, and he fought through that. And to the time that we got to Woblin, where we liberated this concentration camp, this young man's total mission in life at that point was to try to locate his mother and father and brother and sister. When we liberated this concentration camp, we found this Catholic priest, and the young man asked him if he by any chance knew his mother and father and his family. And I remember the three of us standing there and talking. The Catholic priest said, "I don't know how to tell you this, son, but your mother and father and brother and sister were put to death at this camp 2 weeks ago." I always have a problem telling this story without choking up. But if ever you saw two grown men cry, I held this young man in my arms and we both cried.
Mr. Burris, thank you for telling us that story.
And that is Walter Edgar speaking with T. Moffett Burris in 2003. And that is a very emotional story that he was telling there.
I still get choked up listening to it.
Oh, I did as well. I felt goosebumps just hearing him describe that. When there is an emotional topic that comes up like that, how do you navigate when conversations turn really serious? How do you navigate that with a guest?
Again, the guest is in the studio.
Right.
Reading it. I don't have a formula. We did not stop the conversation when Mr. Burris spoke. May have taken a deep breath, but Sean, I really don't. I don't have again. Having that person in the room and communicating with your body language as well as the verbal language can make a difference. I think I was trying to send out vibes of, I have been in the service, I understand.
Right.
And you need to, in terms of an officer holding an enlisted man in his arms and they're crying in public, I mean, that emotion is just, it is so powerful. Moffett Burris's entire book is well worth reading. It's a wonderful World War II memoir, and it's full of blood and guts, as one would expect. But it's well written.
There's also some humor in it too.
Yeah,
yes, we do want to communicate that.
And military humor can be a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay. And I think the fact that he told that as part of the story.
Yeah.
And his experience is important. Mm-hmm. That was an important part of the story, as well as the Battle of the Bulge.
As we just said, the personal history, the feelings that you have in a moment like that is a major part of the story. And I think what you're trying to say, you were compassionate to your guest and trying to communicate that and understanding that this was another human.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we do have to give ourselves the wind-up sign. We are coming to the close of this 25th anniversary special. I do want to ask very briefly, the two of you, Walter, Alfred, what's in store for the next 25 years?
Ha ha ha.
Well, let's see. I'll be 95 when that ends.
And that'll be great. Still doing the show.
Well, part of that's up to you, Sean.
And listeners and users.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and my daughter said, Dad, you've got a great face for radio. So
we'll be doing it for many years to come, I'm sure. I do want to thank Dr. Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner. Thank you both for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
And unfortunately, we have come to the end of this Walter Edgar's Journal 25th Anniversary Special. Thank you again to Walter Edgar and Alfred Turner for joining us this hour, and congratulations to you both again on 25 years. And I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who worked to make this special possible, including Isabel Alvarado, Ed Goodwin, Ronnie Henderson, Karen Herman, George Kearns, Brian Jameson, Chris Olives, Tabitha Safdie, A.T. Shire, Andy Spencer, Brooke Weeks, and so many others here at South Carolina ETV and Public Radio. This is a production of South Carolina Public Radio, made possible through listener donations to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina. And you can find out more about the Journal at southcarolinapublicradio.org/the Journal. For all of us here at South Carolina ETV and Public Radio, I'm Sean Birch. Thanks for joining us, and in the words of Walter Edgar, we'll talk again soon.